again, and as we earlier said, we're going to be embarking over the results of the peace deal that was taken in Sharm el-Sheikh with all its full details earlier, with the presence of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and the Senior Advisor to President Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, and Hamas delegation headed by Khalil al-Hayya. Of course, a full peace agreement with going in accordance to the terms that were put by President Donald Trump. Very delighted to be having with us live over the phone Professor Dr. Hassan Wageeh, Professor of International Relations. Good morning, Dr. Wageeh.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Shall I say congratulations for the Gazans going back to the enclave and retrieving their land and the cease of fire, and hopefully it's clearing up once again?
Of course. Of course you can say that with happiness and with optimism for the next steps to be completed. I think that you here in the Nile TV, we have been following what our leadership has been doing, what our diplomacy has been doing. We send many good messages that the only way out is a win-win situation. We mentioned something very good, despite all the hardships and the differences with the United States, is that we have strategic relationship. We wanted them to reconsider their stances towards the whole thing, and I think this worked out beautifully, and I am happy for that.
And we're all happy for them. So there was a phone call that took place between President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Donald Trump, the U.S. President, immediately the next day after this agreement took place, and where they discussed the details to implement the ceasefire plan. First of all, let us talk about the details itself, which is very important, the requirements that were taken or reservations by the American side.
Actually, the good thing that agreement came up with is that, no transfer, and this was one very important thing. And yes, for trying to deal with the roots of the Palestinian cause. The Palestinian cause is not to be liquidated, and I think that President Trump himself mentioned something not only in Gaza, but he mentioned that also there's something positive about the West Bank, and that was very good sign for trying to seek the whole thing, to look holistically as much as we can, hopefully. And I think that also the humanitarian aid, the ceasefire withdrawal, although the Israeli have already withdrawn from half of Gaza, but it's a very good step that they implemented that kind of plan, and now the humanitarian aid will go to the Palestinian people. The ceasefire is in action now, so I hope the steps and next phases would succeed also, inshallah.
We need to talk about the stages of executing this peace agreement. First, there is the withdrawal of Hamas from the scene, and also giving up their arms. That is equal to the gradual withdrawal of the Israeli side. This is one thing. The exchange of prisoners and detainees. There are more than thousands, there are thousands and thousands of Palestinian prisoners inside the Israeli jails. Opposite to that is the hostages, a few numbers of hostages with Hamas. There are other things also, but let's talk about the stages. How is that going to happen?
Yes, it could be also the long and widening road. I mean, yes, some issues need to be negotiated and to be settled, because it is a very complicated agenda, by the way, and it's one of the cases of really very tough negotiation and very difficult negotiation. In negotiation, we say, let us go from no to yes. How to go from no to yes in certain issues, like for instance, the issue of disarming Hamas, for instance, still poses some kind of difficulties if the Israelis have already mentioned. And I have listened to one of the leaders of Hamas yesterday on one of the TV programs, and he mentioned that if the Israelis said that they have already destroyed 90% of Hamas forces, so what is left? What arms are you talking about? And what arms, when it comes to the personal defense arms or aggressive attacking arms, where are the arms, etc.? You know, it is still very vague somehow, and still needs to be negotiated and renegotiated till they came up with the win-win situation.
Right. Lately, we have seen the Israeli army, or the Israeli occupation army, is repositioning itself inside Gaza. So what does that mean? Does that mean a full withdrawal or a gradual one? And if it's a gradual one, how is that going to happen?
Yes, actually it is gradual one. Actually, Israel has already now left half of Gaza, but they are concentrating their forces still there in the second half of Gaza. And, you know, hopefully that we can see full withdrawal with the success of the other steps and the other rounds of negotiation. But let us hope for that, because it is still a long and tough negotiation, and a lot of challenges that should be met and should be solved. The good thing is about the willingness of the parties now. The good thing is also the American stance has already saw to it that there must be a decision to end the war and to get to the root of the conflict. Hopefully this would help a lot in coming up with something positive and reasonable for everyone.
Right. So now, without the efforts, relentless efforts of Egypt, of Egypt since day one, holding conferences, calling, refusing objecting to the displacement, and all the things that continuous statements by President al-Sisi, there wouldn't be any peace deals. Especially that there was negotiations before in Qatar, and you know what happened. So there were sincere, complete, courageous efforts taken by Egypt, especially the latest scene in Sharm el-Sheikh. So how do you assess the role of Egypt bringing that particular peace deal to reality and effecting it with courage and setting the terms and ultimatums, with the United States respecting it and forcing Israel to respect it also?
Yes, from day one, Egypt's stance was very clear and was very strategic, looking at the whole thing in terms of no for the liquidation of the Palestinian cause, and that is the most important thing, no for the transfer, and no for aggressing on the Egyptian sovereignty under any pretext. And I think that Egypt stood alone for a long period of time. You know, we have been in this for the last 2 years, but the whole world started to see that the Egyptian stance is internationally reasonable, internationally agreed upon, and Egypt was backed by so many powers, and Egypt already opened up Cairo for many conferences. We have already witnessed that. The Europeans came, everyone came, and there was a very good diplomatic efforts, very compound, very deep diplomatic efforts were exerted in a very orchestrated way till everyone became very convinced of the reasonability of the Egyptian stance, and also no one can, you know now that people, fair-minded people, recognize the efforts of President Fattah al-Sisi. The man was very strategic and very win-win, and very keen to keep Egypt's sovereignty as well as solving the Palestinian problem. And he mentioned statement that's being reiterated that he will never share any oppression, he will never share any injustice. So I think that won him a great respect all over the world. And if you can see what Witkoff said recently, in the 2 days ago when he met with the president, he said something along this line in a very grateful way to the stance of the president. And this stance helped the whole world now. It did not help Egypt only or the Palestinians only. Oh, it helped the entire world to get to exert all the needed efforts to get a solution, a radical solution, which Egypt insists that there should be two states, there should be radical solution. It shouldn't be a truce and ceasefire and everything will go with the wind. No, Egypt is still adamant and very keen about reaching this two-state solution, which is being adopted internationally, as we have seen the recognition in the General Assembly, and before that, almost more than 140 states already recognized establishing a state for the Palestinians. So I think that Egypt's stance is here to be adamant, to stay to go to the very end for that kind of, because it's the only way. The president mentioned there will never be real authentic peace unless there are two states and Palestinians will get the rights to live and to have their human rights intact.
Right. Actually, with the United States administration assisting or backing up Israel for almost 2 years now, since October 7th incident happened, they never denied Israel any or failed Israel never their assistance and their backup and their support, and also their vetoes, more than 60 vetoes in the United Nations objecting to the ceasing fire in Gaza. But suddenly there was a full commitment to ceasefire, a full insistence on ceasing fire on the U.S. side. How do you justify that? Is it the Nobel Prize?
I would raise another slogan. The truth is never a lie, you know. If you'd like to be truthful, people would listen to you and give you the needed credibility as a superpower in the entire world. You have to play the role, and we have mentioned, as you can remember, so many times, where is Carter? Where is the win-win approach? We appealed to the United States to reconsider its stance, and also there is a growing fair-mindedness being in universities, in different circles, against what's happening. And the Israeli propaganda as human decency was substituted by a genocide war in the minds of many Americans. So, I mean, and people were speaking out that in a very clear way. And I think that the American administration should be keen not to ignore all these voices, and should adapt the situation, not only for peace. And President Trump himself mentioned yesterday that, irrespective of Nobel, I work for peace and I'd like to stop this bloodshedding. And the man said something very good that we all support him for.
Right. Let us also talk about President Al-Sisi inviting Donald Trump to attend the celebration in Egypt, actually to mark the signing of the Gaza ceasefire, which was actually a very nice gesture on the Egyptian president's side, of course. President Donald Trump, he warmly welcomed the invitation. So what is expected in that second encounter between the two presidents?
I think the president came up with a very smart move to even support the direction that Donald Trump is pursuing now for trying to put an end to this conflict. So I think getting into the Sharm el-Sheikh, which became now all over the world, the city for peace, was a very smart move and very important move and very supporting for the efforts of President Trump too. And also, as Wageeh said, the whole thing now is calling for opening a new chapter in the strategic relationship between Egypt and the United States.
Hopefully,
and I think this is very needed for establishing peace in this area.
Right, and on this very optimistic note, we'd like to thank you, of course, Dr. Hassan Wageeh, Professor of International Relations, talking to us in the Breakfast Show. Many thanks to you, sir. You have a good day. We'll be right back after a short break, so stay with us.